Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Chief Sweet and today I'm going to teach you how to set up your lights for a leopard gecko. Let's get right to this. So a lot of people are probably coming in and they bought their leopard gecko from a store. They might have had a leopard gecko for a while and they were told that they are nocturnal. They don't need lights at all. That's, no lights necessary, heat mat, that's all you need and they'll be fine. And while a lot of leopard geckos have lived that way for a very long time, research is coming out and showing that UVB with the heat alongside of it is extremely beneficial for a leopard gecko. And who knows how long it's going to extend their lives. And I always have said this, the sun is extremely important, not only for us, for everything in the world, but for reptiles. The sun is so important for reptiles, and why are we not trying to mimic the sun for reptiles that are even considered nocturnal? Because how else would they know to go to sleep if the sun wasn't coming up and going down? So I'm going to show you exactly how I set up my leopard gecko cages. Let's get into this. So here we have a common enclosure for a baby leopard gecko, a 20-gallon tank. Also, I always say start off with a 20-gallon for leopard gecko because they will get larger. You can start off with a 40-gallon. It's not going to hurt them. It's not going to scare them. It's not going to stress them out. But the reason we'll start off with something larger, and if you can hear the crickets, forgive me. My crickets, I breed crickets. They're going crazy. But the reason you want like a long tank that's much longer than like a 10-gallon tank. So let's say this is a 10-gallon tank right here. It would be almost impossible to put a heat lamp on this and not overheat the tank. You don't want to kill your leopard gecko and overheat the tank. A 20-gallon long is great because if you put the heat lamp on one side, there will be a cooler side where he can go run off, and if he gets too hot, he could cool off. But I'm sorry if there's nothing in this tank, it's just an empty tank. It's just easier for me to show you like this, and plus I have nothing to put in this tank. This is just a show tank, I guess, if you will. But we have an empty tank right here. So one thing is very important is you want your heat on one side and you want a cool side. So let's get a heat lamp. So what I like to do is I like to get a heat lamp like this, and I'll put it on one side of the cage. Now, a lot of people ask me what type of heat lamp, what type of wattage do you need for the heat lamp? And that really depends on your house. But I will say this, for 12-inch enclosures like the 20-gallon, I start off with a 50-watt heat lamp. And whatever that gets, I will use that to get to my desired temperature on the basking spot. If there is a rock, say this is the rock right here, this UVB lamp, this is the rock. The heat lamp, when the heat lamp is right on top of the rock, you're gonna get your thermometer, you're gonna read it, and that's gonna be your desired temperature of 94 to 98 degrees basking wise. You want that rock to read on your thermometer 94 to 98 degrees. Now, air temp wise is different. The air temp is just the air inside the tank. What's the air like inside the tank? You want it like maximum 90 on the hot side, and cool, you can have it as low as 70. That's how I like to do it. My tanks usually get maximum 89 degrees. 90 is like the maximum. If it gets above 90, leopard geckos don't really like that much. So I like to keep it like that, okay? 90 degrees, that's the maximum. I usually put a thermometer up on like the middle of the enclosure on the hot side and on the cool side, so that way you can gauge your temperatures correctly. Like I said, maximum 90, and it's okay. Like, it's just gonna even out, all right? You don't have to worry too much about it. Humidity, again, you don't have to worry that much about the humidity because usually, oh, that was loud, forgive me. Usually it'll regulate itself, but I will have the heat lamp right here. And like I said, if you live in a hot house, you might have to get a 25-watt lamp. You might have to get a really low wattage heat lamp. But I'll put my heat lamp on this side. And very important, I see this mistake. People have this mistake at all the time. You want your UVB, and I highly recommend this one right here. It's an Arcadia Shade Dweller. It's perfect on this 12-inch enclosure at this height on top of screen. On top of screen, at this height, you put it on top of screen, it's gonna be perfect for your leopard gecko. If you have an albino, usually it doesn't matter that much, but if you have an albino, they also have like the arboreal version you can use instead of this one, so that way it's a little less UVB. It's like the 2.4, I think, or the Shade Dweller Max. This is the Shade Dweller 7%. It's like 40 bucks at PetSmart, $50 in some places. Wherever you find it, it's not that bad. If you want it, I'll have a link in the description. But you want these side by side, okay? Because we're trying to mimic the sun as best as we can. I know it's impossible, but we're trying to mimic the sun. You're gonna want them side by side. A lot of people do this, like that. You do not want to do that. That's terrible because you're having your UVB over here, and when animals go to bask, if you ever go out in the sun and it feels warm on your skin, you're just like, oh, this feels so good. That's the heat and the UVB hitting you perfectly, and you're just like, oh, it's so great. Same with the reptiles, that's what they want. They want it right beside each other. So, bam, that's it. Easy as that. Again, the wattages. Also, I will say this, I like to use these. Let me go get them. I like to use these Repti basking bulbs. They're 50 watts, like I said, 12-inch enclosures. Now, if you have a 40-gallon for an adult, I do use the 75-watt ones to get the desired basking temperature. Like I said, usually for the 40-gallon tanks, you go 75 watts, and for the 12-inch tall tanks, it's 50 watts. That's usually for me has always been a good rule of thumb. But I really like the zoom-in basking bulbs, and this is an Arcadia halogen bulb as well. You could use this, get a 50-watt one if you want to. This one is actually a 35-watt one. I use it for because my tanks are up high and this room is very hot, so I use a little bit lower wattage. Like I said, depending on how hot your house is, that's going to vary on the wattages. I know I can't give you an exact number, and that sucks. This is just, once you're in the reptile hobby, you're going to figure this out. Getting the temps correct with the heat lamp is always a struggle. Once you dial it in, it's good forever. But one thing I see people use a lot with leopard geckos is a deep heat projector, right? That's very popular for leopard geckos. I do not use deep heat projectors because it doesn't mimic the sun. Now, I will say a lot of people ask as well, do I turn all the lights off at night? Yes, turn all the lights off at night. I don't use any supplemental heating. It's okay. Where the leopard geckos are from in Pakistan, it gets very cold at nighttime. It's okay. Like I said, there in the wintertime, it gets as low in the 40s. They can be as low as the 40s where they're from. It's perfectly fine if it gets cold at nighttime. That's very normal. When the sun goes down, so does the temps. So it's okay. You don't have to have heat at nighttime at all. I turn all my lights off at nighttime, and I also have a gaming room. Like I game in this room, so I'm at night playing video games. Usually when I turn off, when their lights go off, they come out. As soon as their lights are off, they're walking around their cage, even if there's like other lights on in the room and it's like kind of dark. I think even right now, yeah, my leopard gecko is actually coming out right now because and this room is kind of lit up, right? But her lamps are off and she's coming out. And that, like I said, it's just very normal. Usually it's like they can feel the heat, they can see this much dimmer, and they'll come out and walk around. Like I said, the circadian rhythm, when you have lamps on top, make a huge difference for your leopard geckos because then they can tell. They know when to wake up, they know when to go to sleep, and it's very good for them. We want to mimic the sun with reptiles, even those who aren't primarily in the sun like leopard geckos. But yes, I do see the deep heat projectors quite a bit. If you're going to use that as an extra heat source, I would only use it as a nighttime heat source if your temperatures in the cage are like 40 degrees. That's the only time I'd use it. I would not use it for a daytime heat source because I use halogen bulbs and incandescent bulbs like this one because I'm trying to mimic the sun. If you use it for a daytime heat source, like I said, you kind of defeat the purpose. It's almost like a heat mat above the tank. You can if you want to, I guess, but like I said, halogen and incandescents are the best. But however, if you don't have an Arcadia shade dweller and you don't have this halogen heat lamp, I do see people often use these right here. That's why I have this one. I see people use these right here. They're very popular on the leopard gecko habitats. They come with one of these. This is a coil UVB bulb. And hilarious enough, I always tell people to stay away from the coil UVB bulbs because I usually make content for like stuff that is in the daytime lizards, right? Bearded dragons, this is always sold. And make sure it's the mini one. Mini compact fluorescent is what this is. It's the 13-watt 10.0. I've tested these on the channel and I will say hilarious. These aren't bad for a leopard gecko. So if you did have this, you could use it for a leopard gecko, but I will say they go out very fast. Even if they produce light, they might not be producing UVB. So that's why I say get the Arcadia shade dweller. This right here is 2 years old. This is my shade dweller, 2 years old. I have a solar meter to test it, and guess what? It's still producing amazing UVB. This is 2 years old. I have not replaced it. Amazing. Like I said, this lamp right here was 5 months, and it just stopped producing UVB, but it still lights up. So like I said, you wanna save money, 40 bucks. This right here is $27, and you have to get a lamp. You get an Arcadia shade dweller. It's reliable. It lasts a very long time. It's the best of the best, but you can use the Zoomed 10.0s. I don't know about any other of the coil UVB, but I have tested the Zoomed 10.0s, and I will say hilarious. In this one right here, with the heat lamp, it actually produced moderately good UVB for leopard gecko, which is like 1.0 UVI, which is incredibly low. That's why I say never use these for a bearded dragon because they always have these in bearded dragon enclosures, and every time I see them, I'm like, these produce like nothing. But see, this is only 12 inches away. For most bearded dragon enclosures are like 2 foot or 18 inches tall. So 12 inches away, it literally is going to produce. Honestly, this produces like, if you have it on top of the cage and it's going to have it down here, it might be a little less for leopard gecko. So again, that's why you want to get the shade dweller because this produces almost no UVB. It's extremely low. So that's why I say stick. Try to get the Arcadia shade dweller. It's amazing. There's almost nothing on the market that comes close to this. I love this thing. And I'm not sponsored by this. People always say, are you sponsored by them? You're always pushing them. It's just, if there's someone who comes along who's better, I guarantee you, I'm gonna leave them for the better person. I only want what's best for my animals. That's why I'm going with this. Also, I will talk a little bit about the colored bulbs. You'll see like the red bulbs, the blue bulbs, the nighttime, the moonlight. Don't get those. Again, those not mimic the sun. You might hear people say like they hurt their eyes. It's not gonna hurt their eyes. All it is it's just it's a colored bulb. It's not you know, outside in the daytime, it's not red skies, it's not it is blue skies, but it's not like the warm glow that you see from the sun. So stay away from those bulbs. Just get a classic halogen that's going to mimic daytime as best as you can. For the heat lamp, it's good to plug it into a thermostat, put the probe around. Now, a lot of people will put the probe on the basking spot. I don't do that. I usually put it on the side of the tank, and I will, even though like on the side of the tank, I will measure it, and when the basking surface gets 98 degrees, I will measure the side of the tank, and if it's at like, you know, 85 degrees, I will set the thermostat for 85 degrees. So that way I know when the basking spot gets that temperature, the side of the tank gets to the temperature, it will turn off the basking lamp. So it's really good to have this, because then it will keep your leopard gecko from also overheating and dying in case like somehow your air conditioning goes out or something like that. It gets extremely hot in your house, and you know, you have to figure out a way to, you know, not burn your house down. That's a great way to do it, is a thermostat. And it's that easy. I know it might not have seemed easy. I talked a lot about all kinds of stuff, but like I said, Arcadia Shade Dweller, 7%. They sell it at PetSmart. They sell it online, 40 to 50 bucks, depending on where you can find it. Lasts a long time. 50 watt for a 20 gallon, 75 watt for a 40 gallon, but check those temps and use the wattage to get you to those temps. You might have to go up and down in wattage to get to the correct temps. Make sure they're on one side, right beside each other, because you want them as close as possible to each other, pointing and making pretty much mimicking the sun, you know, a fake sun for your leopard gecko. And then this side is gonna be the cool side. And sometimes every now and then in the mornings or at nighttime, like right before the lights go out, the leopard gecko will actually come out and sit around and bask. So that's a pretty cool thing. But that's all I have for you today. I hope I helped in some way. And if I did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Also, forgive the crickets. They're insanely loud. I'm sorry. I'm breeding them, and it's so loud. It's deafening right now.